The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Alone in the Realm, a premium solo TTRPG podcast. I'm DV, your humble GM and adventurer. Alone in the Realm is a podcast where we let the dice drive the story, and we are along for the ride. No characters beyond death, and we let the dice lay where they fall. We'll be playing Mothership by Tuesday Night Games, and the Mega Dungeon module, Gradient Descent, by Luke Gearing. Gradient Descent, Episode 10. Here is a reminder of our characters. Denzel McNelly, Teamster. Hit points, 11 out of 11. Wounds, 0. Stress, 8. Bends, 17. Therese Montz, Teamster. Hit points, 16 out of 17. Wounds, 0. Stress, 6. Bends, 13. Ollie Kenworth, Scientist. Hit points, 17 out of 17. Wounds, 0. Stress, 17. Bends, 10. Ada, Automated Droid Assistant, Android. Hit points, 3 out of 14. Wounds, 1 out of 3. Stress, 8. Bends, 22. In the last episode, the crew, along with the divers led by the potty-mouthed Grace, disabled the hunter android as it trapped them in a tool depot. Then they fled the oncoming security androids deeper into the engineering section of the station, to what Grace believed was another exit. They could not reach it, however, due to a high heat location, and they had to turn back. Arcady was tired of waiting for them, and told them only to contact him when they were ready and waiting to be extracted. Grace and her team felt like this crew was nothing but trouble, and likewise told them to bugger off. Our crew is now in the power generator section on floor 6, deciding where to go from here. The next 4 encounters will be hostile security androids. Unless Grace's crew go a different route from ours, we'll assume that they will run into them first. Monarch stress is currently 8, and our chaos factor is currently 8. First, let's test the scene with Mythic. We'll roll a d10. We got a 1 versus an 8, an altered scene. Let's roll in the scene adjustment table, which is also a d10. We got a 4, increase in activity. Instead of rolling and getting an encounter with a roll of doubles every 10 minutes, I'll roll every time they enter an area. That will be the increase in activity. Denzel stood there, the hum of the nuclear reactor below his feet. He looked to his crew members as they watched Grace and the other crew exiting the power generator room. Let's roll and see if there's an encounter right off the bat. 11. Yes, that was quick. We'll roll 1d5 androids, and that is a 5. 5 androids. This is the lowest you can roll to get doubles on an 11, so I think they're coming from the direction of the heat coils and are extremely damaged from the heat. The security androids have a combat skill of 60. They all have steel wool shotguns which do 3d10 damage but are harmless to objects. They have an instinct skill of 50, 2 wounds, and 20 hit points each. I'll roll a d20 for each one to see how many hit points they have left out of their 20. First android, let's roll for his hit points. Ooh, he's really hurt. He's only got 3 hit points left. Second android, let's roll for his hit points. He got a 14. It's got 14 hit points left. Next android, we'll roll for him. He rolled a 2. Oof, he's in bad shape. Next one, we'll roll again. Another 3. Wow, okay. And finally, the fifth android, let's see how many hit points he has. Oh, 2. Jeez, good lord. These guys are in rough shape. Alright, Mythic. Does the party see or hear the androids that are coming? Roll a D100. 32 versus an 85. Yes. Is there any cover available nearby? I'm going to say nearly impossible due to the nature of this room, which is only a big catwalk over the nuclear reactor. So nearly impossible, which is still 50% odds with the chaos factor as high as it is. Regardless, let's roll. We got a 59 versus a 50. No. Okay, there is no cover available. Behind them, down the catwalk leading to the heat coils, the crew heard footsteps running along the catwalk. Damn it! Denzel looked around for somewhere they could hide. Though this room was massive, it was all made up of a series of catwalks and instrument panels over the nuclear reactor. Let's get out of here! He rushed toward the door and out into the hallway. The other crew was already at the end of the other hallway, about to open the office door into the power switchboard room that they had left earlier. They noticed Denzel and the others, and Grace called out,
"Count to 1,000 before you follow along, you stupid ass butt, or we'll fill you full of lead."
Denzel was about to tell them about the androids, but he held his tongue. There was another door in the opposite direction that had a placard that read Diagnostics above it. He motioned for his crew to follow them, and they filed into the room. Is there an encounter in this room? Remember, I'm rolling as an increased activity for every room, whether it's been 10 minutes or not. I got a 37, no. Once inside, they were greeted by banks of readout displays and monitoring stations throughout the room. They each took cover behind some of the mechanisms, hoping they would remain unseen if the androids just glanced inside. While he sat impatiently behind one of the consoles, Denzel noted that the metal air duct grills inside the room looked brand new compared to all the other machinery inside. Very strange, but nothing really surprised him in the deep. Mythic Fate Check. Do the security androids go the same way as our crew? We got a 74 versus an 85, yes. Okay. Do they do a thorough search? Okay, please let this be a no. It's gonna be hard to get a no, though, with this high chaos factor. We got a 6 versus an 85, which is an extreme yes. Sounds like we're gonna be found, and they're gonna try to attack us. Denzel heard shuffling feet and the door opening into the diagnostics room. The androids sounded like they were dragging their feet. He silently pulled the combat shotgun into his hands and slung his SMG onto his back. He was up against a wall, and anyone who came around the corner would get a blast of steel wool. In a short moment, one of the security androids shuffled into view. It held its shotgun at the ready, but that's not what Denzel noted. The pseudo-flesh hung in melted tatters from its body. The Cloudbank coveralls were singed all over, and the room suddenly stunk of burnt flesh. His surprise was short-lived, and he blasted the dilapidated android with his shotgun at point-blank range. I don't think he could possibly miss in this surprise attack at point-blank range with a shotgun, so I'm just going to roll damage on this first attack. We'll roll 3d10 for his damage with his shotgun. That is a 17. The first security android now has 1 wound and 6 hit points left in that wound. Let's roll on the gunshot wound table and see what happens. We'll roll a d10 on the gunshot wound table, and we got a 0, which is the worst I could possibly roll, which just means he was knocked down. The blast from the shotgun knocked the droid backward into the wall, and it fell to the ground. Denzel heard the other footsteps stop around the corner. Ada peeked around the corner of her cover and fired her SMG at the downed android. Okay, now we'll roll an attack with Ada. She gets to roll with advantage because the droid is on the ground. She rolled a 51. Let's roll again. And she rolled a 41. Both are fails versus a 24. She gets +1 stress. Her stress is now at 9. Therese is also going to attack with advantage. The downed android. She got a 19, which is a hit. And a 96, which is not a hit, but she's rolling with advantage, so we'll take the hit versus 46. She gets to roll 2d10 damage with her SMG. That is 5 damage. The security android is now down to 1 hit point out of 20 and 1 out of 2 wounds. Ollie is going to attack next. He gets to roll with advantage as well. We got a 24 and a 90, so that's a hit versus 44. We'll roll 3d10 damage. That's a 15. Killed. After Denzel blasted the android with a shotgun, the rest of the crew all followed suit, peeking out from behind their cover and blasting the downed android. Before it could stand up, its torso was obliterated by SMG and pulse laser rifle fire. Monarch's stress goes up by 1. It's now 9. Ollie's stress goes up by 1 as well. It's now 18. Ollie, my god. My friend. You're in a bad way. Another security android peeked around the corner of the machinery it stood behind and fired a blast down the passageway. We'll roll to see who it attacks. Ollie. Alright, so we are going to attack Ollie. That is a 45 versus a 60. That's a hit. We'll roll 3d10 damage. Whew, a lot. 17 minus 5 cover. Minus 1 armor point from his work attire. That's 11 hit points. Ollie is down to 6 out of 17 hit points. One of the other androids shambled around the corner, likewise in a horrible condition. Part of the metallic skeleton of its face was clearly visible. It exposed its full body and fired down the line. So this security android 3 is going to attack Ollie as well. A 22 versus a 60. Critical hit. Oh no. Not great. Not great at all. Let's roll for damage. 3d10. That is a 13. Minus 5 for his cover, that's 8. That puts Ollie with 1 wound and takes him back down to 15 out of 17 hit points with his second wound. Now we'll roll for his wound table. Gunshot wound, d10. Oh no! A 9! It's a headshot. Now I have to make a death save. Come on, Ollie. Come on, d10. Come on, Ollie. Roll low. Roll low, Ollie. 0. Nice. He is unconscious. He'll wake up in 11 minutes. Also, he gets a D10 minus to his max health. Let's roll that. 6. So his maximum health goes down by 6. His max hit points are now 11. So he did have 15 out of 17 hit points. Now he's down to 11 out of 11 hit points. Ooh. Ollie had his head sticking out from aiming at the downed android, and the second blast from another droid's shotgun caught him right in his ugly face. His head was rocked backward as the steel wool ripped into his forehead, exposing his skull beneath. If it had been a traditional slug, his head probably would have exploded. Therese was the only crew member who could see what happened, and she let out a mechanical scream. Therese, make a fear save. 21 versus 27. Save. 2 more androids crowded behind the first 2, but could not get in line for a shot. Denzel decided to blast the android standing exposed. "Therese, are you okay?" he called out after he fired. Let's roll for a point-blank attack. He gets advantage on Security Android 3. That is a 56 and a 28. That's a hit. We'll roll 3d10 damage for Denzel. 21. Whoa. Security Android 3 takes 1 wound and has 2 hit points left. Let's roll for a wound for this android. A d10. An 8. A sucking chest wound. His bleeding is +5. Alright, so he's got 1 out of 2 wounds. And he'll lose 5 hit points in his next turn. Ada is also going to attack Security Android 2. She does not get advantage this time. Just a normal attack. She got a 40 versus a 24, which is a miss. She gets +1 stress, so she is now up to 10 stress. Therese attacks Security Android 3. She gets an 11 versus a 46. That's a critical success. She's going to take 1 of her stress away, so she's now at 6 stress. She'll also roll 2d10 damage, and she gets a 17. The droid is killed. Ollie is still unconscious, so he does not get +1 stress from the death of the android. However, Monarch does get a +1 stress, so Monarch is now up to 10 stress. The shot from Denzel's shotgun opens a gaping wound in the android's chest. White pseudo-milk blood splashes all over the surrounding displays. Ada and Therese both fire as well, and the bullet-riddled android falls to the ground, dead. The second android sees them peek out to fire and lets loose another blast around the corner of the machinery. With an opening in the lane, another of the wounded androids moves forward to attack the defenders. Security Android 2 is going to attack Therese now. It's got a 32 versus a 60, which is a hit. It will get a 3d10. That is a 16, -5 for her cover, -1 from her attire. She's now down to 6 out of 17 hit points. Security Android 4 is also going to attack Therese. That is a 74 versus a 60, a miss. Therese cried out when the steel wool ripped through the flesh in her shoulder, and she cowered back behind her instrument panel. Denzel could now see Security Android 4 and fired a blast at it. Denzel, attack, point blank range once again, gets advantage. 48 and 96 versus a 40. That's a fail. Gets +1 stress. Now he's at 9 stress. I will say that he still hits the android. I'm going to fail forward in this case. But the gun jams when ejecting in the shell casing, so he won't get to attack next turn with his shotgun. So I'm going to roll 3d10 damage for this android, and I got a 14. That's 1 wound, and it's down to 9 out of 20 hit points in his second wound. Let's roll for his wound on the wound table. He gets a 5. That's a lodged bullet. It will get infected in 1d10 days. Okay. You won't worry about that, I don't think. And Ada, attack. Once again, she's going to roll 49 versus a 24. +1 stress. Her stress is now at 11. The android shot by Denzel staggered backward, a large portion of the steel wool embedded in its chest. It saw Denzel kneeling behind the instruments and turned to fire on him. Alright, Security Android 4 is going to attack Denzel at point blank range, so he gets advantage. That's an 84 and 70 versus a 60. That's a miss on both. Thank goodness. Wouldn't have been bad. Security Android 2 is going to attack Ada. Gets a 17 versus a 60. That's a hit. Ooh, not good. It's not good, guys. Things aren't looking great for us. 3d10 damage. That's an 18. Ooh, -5 for cover. She's down to 13. That's 13 damage. She's down to 4 out of 14 hit points, and she's on her second wound out of 3 wounds. Let's roll on the wound table, see what her problem is. She got a 4. That's a leg shot. She's got bleeding, +2. The android must have been dazed from his chest wound. His gunshot blasted the machinery over Denzel's head harmlessly, since the shot was made from steel wool. The other android, peering around the corner, aimed at Ada's exposed body, and the blast carved into the side of her leg that was exposed behind her cover. Her white blood began leaking out into the floor. "I have been hit," she called out, all too calmly. She retreated behind her cover and began to treat her wound with the first aid kit in her pack. The combat shotgun in Denzel's hand was jammed, so he pulled out his SMG and blasted at the android in front of him. Denzel is going to attack, point blank range, so he gets advantage. He's attacking with the SMG instead of the shotgun. He got an 11 and a 3 versus a 40. The 11, even though it's higher, is actually better, so we'll take it because we've got advantage. And we get a critical hit, which takes his stress down by 1. So now we're at 8 stress. And I'll roll damage, 2d10 with the SMG. That's a 13. It's killed. The wound, let's go ahead and roll what his wound was so we can narrate what happened. It was a 5, lodged bullet. Again, okay. Denzel expertly fired his SMG, and the bullet slammed all in the same location the steel wool had lodged into the android's chest. It fell backward on top of its 2 fellows. The room was eerily silent except for the ambient hum of the station machinery. After the bellows of the continual gun blast, it sounded almost peaceful. Denzel hurriedly cleared the jammed shell in his shotgun. He had 1 left in the chamber. He kept it aimed at the corner, so if anything came around, he would hit it. He called out to the others. "Everyone okay?" "Ollie is hurt bad," Therese yelled at. "I'm hit, but mostly okay, I guess." "I have received injuries further from my previous. I will need repair as soon as possible," Ada called out. "Take your stim packs if you need to. Ada, can you safely get to Ollie and check on him?" Denzel shook with adrenaline. Both Therese and Ada decided to take his advice and use a stim pack. Monarch gets +2 stress for the last 2 androids killed. Stress is now at 12. Ada is going to roll for her stim pack. She gets +3 hit points, so now she's at 7 out of 14. She also gets -1 stress, so she is now at 10. She will get advantage on all of her rolls for 8 minutes. Therese rolls her stim pack. She gets +6 hit points. Hit points. She's now at 12 out of 17 hit points. She gets -1 stress, now she's at 5, and she gets advantage on her rolls for 7 minutes. "I will be fired upon if I leave my current position," Ada responded. As if on cue, one of the last 5 androids clumsily climbed over his fellows' corpses. It was in the same poor condition as the others. Let's roll a speed check to see if the android can get over the corpses before Denzel shoots it. It gets an 89 versus a 50. That's a fail. The android fell down as it tried to climb over their companions' bodies. Denzel gets an auto hit because it's prone in front of him. There's really no way to miss. We're gonna roll an auto hit, 3d10 damage. Heck yeah. Whew, with the shotgun, 16 damage. Gets 1 wound, and it's down to his last 6 out of 20 hit points. Let's roll for his wound. He gets a 9. That's a headshot. Dead. The steel wool caved through the face of the android and circuitry sparked inside its head. It crumpled amongst its brethren. Monarch gets +1 stress, now at 13 stress. Ada heard the gunshot blast and scurried over to where Ollie lay behind his cover. Let's roll a speed check for Ada. As she crosses the hallway, that's a 35 and 59 versus 41. That's a save. The android, peering from behind cover, blasted with its shotgun, but the wool just missed Ada as she leapt behind cover. Therese figured now was the time to act. and after the android fired its round, she peered out of cover and fired her SMG at it. Alright, so she's going to roll with advantage for the second android. 22 and 26. That's a critical hit versus 46. Instead of lowering her stress, though, I'll do double damage for her this time, so I can win this fight. I'm just going to roll 2d10 times 2. 26 damage. Holy cow. Minus 5 for its cover. That's 21 damage. It gets 1 wound, and it's down to 13 out of 20 hit points left. Let's roll for its last wound. Leg shot. Bleeding +2. The SMG rounds tore into the leg exposed from behind its cover, and Denzel could see white blood running underneath the machinery beside him. Noting he was out of shotgun shells, he readied his SMG instead. Ada called out, "I have done what I can for Ollie. He is currently unconscious and hurt, but he will live." They all sat silently and waited to see what the last android would decide to do. Security android number 2 gets -2 hit points from its bleeding wound. Mythic fate check. Will it decide to move forward to attack or retreat? Ooh, an 08 versus an 85. That's an extreme yes. Alright, so it's going to try to climb over its fellows here. So it's going to make a speed check. And it got an 85 versus a 50. That's a fail. It tripped over its dead companions as well. Denzel gets his free attack. As he do. He's just rolling with the SMG 2d10, not 3d10. Come on, DV, quit trying to cheat. 2d10 is 8 damage. That puts Security Android 5 down to 3 out of 11 hit points. The Security Android is prone, but he's going to attack back at Denzel with disadvantage. That is a 45 and a 94. So that's a fail versus 60. As the blood continued to flow freely from its leg wound, the android decided it needed to finish off these intruders quickly. It attempted to pivot around its dead companions, but the wounded leg did not move as it intended, and it fell to the ground directly in front of Denzel. He let loose a stream of SMG bullets into the thing. It rolled over from the impact and tried to fire its shotgun in return, but its awkward position on the ground made the shot blast into the ceiling above. Denzel took careful aim and finished it off with a short burst from his machine gun. Denzel roll attack with advantage. 37 and 52 versus a 40. That's a hit. Alright, well, 2d10 damage. That's a 10. It's killed. Monarch stress goes up by 1, now at 14 stress. Holy cow. Denzel took careful aim and finished it off with a short burst from his machine gun. They all sat and waited for a few minutes to make sure they would not face any further attacks. Finally, Denzel moved to search the androids for any remaining shells they might have. Ada and Therese both retrieved one of the combat shotguns for themselves. Ada's gun had 4 shots, and how many reloads? We'll roll a d4. 1. Therese's gun had how many shots? 4 shots, and had how many reloads? That is a 4. Denzel finds how many shells? 4 shells. And how many reloads for his shotgun? 3. Okay. After several minutes, Ollie regained consciousness. Ada had wrapped a bandage around his head, and it was already stained red with his blood. "Ugh, I have a headache," he quipped. No one laughed, including him. "We need to get out of here. I'll peek outside and see if anything is moving out there." Denzel moved to the door of the room. It was at this point that I realized that we'd been wearing vac suits this whole time, not our work attire, so we should have had extra protection. It doesn't amount to much, and it would not have changed the outcome of this combat, so I'll just move on. Let's roll for an encounter, though. 63, no encounter. The hallway was clear, so Denzel moved carefully out while the others waited in the diagnostics room. He crept down the hallway and carefully opened the door to the power switchboard room. Is there anyone inside that room? 7. None. There was no one in sight, so he motioned for the others, and they hustled down the hallway to join him. They moved from room to room into the power sector airlock chamber. Denzel cycled the air, then they stood in front of the algae farm bulkhead door. There'd be no sneaking through this one, so they took up firing positions around the door the best they could, while Denzel rotated the wheel lock. It opened away from them into the room beyond. Let's roll for an encounter check in the algae room. 5. No encounter. The grow lights from the hydroponics dimly lit the room, and they could see no sign of any movement. They moved carefully among the large glass cubes. The reflections on their movements caught their eyes and made them jump every time. We're going to roll 2 more encounter checks as we move through this room, since it's such a large room. That's a 10, no encounter. And that's a 100. Ho-ho! That is an encounter. More security androids, and they're going to be much stronger than the party. Not great. Mythic fate check. Can we find a place to hide amongst this huge algae farm room? Oh god, I hope so. That's a 62 versus an 85, yes. Up ahead, Denzel could see the bulkhead door on the opposite side open up into the flow control chamber. He hissed at the others to take cover behind the multitude of farm cubes. How many androids do we see? 5 fully healed up androids. 5 androids marched in a single file down the massive hallway between the farms. They glanced perfunctorily around, but their search was largely lackluster. When Denzel heard the opposite bulkhead door close, he hustled from his cover and motioned for the others to follow. They passed into the oxygen flow control chamber, happy to be in a lit area once again. Let's roll for an encounter in here. We got a 5, no encounter. Denzel peeked into the 4-way intersection, from the office door to the oxygen control room. He knew there was an air duct from the adjacent tool shed, or they could go back through the garbage heap. Is there an encounter in this room? 80, none. Mythic fate check. Is the hunter's body gone? We left the hunter here in the doorway of that tool shed. 57 versus an 85. Yes, it is gone. I don't feel so good, Ollie said suddenly. Let's make him have a body save from all this exertion with his head wound. He fails. He's going to throw up from his head wound. And you got a 3 versus a 27. Save. Ada and Therese helped guide him to the ground with his back against the wall. Denzel noted that the massive form of the hunter droid was no longer laying in the doorway of the tool shed. Either it had been dragged off for repairs or something. He didn't mention it to his injured companions. They would see soon enough. End of scene. The chaos factor is now at 9, which is the highest it can be. Things are completely out of control of the characters right now. This was a pretty rough episode, and we aren't out of the woods yet. 2 of the party received wounds this episode. We're getting closer to the landing dock, so maybe the other crew has not left yet, and Arcadia is still on his way to pick them up. If we don't have a mishap, we might be able to get out of here alive, but we'll see what the dice decide. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. If you want to help support the show, consider leaving a like and a comment, as that really helps the algorithm. Consider sharing the link on your favorite social media.